So if everybody would get their Bibles and turn to Luke chapter 24. I believe we have 12 different sets of verses. So I'll start off. Verses 1 through 3. Oh, before I start officially, we'll be glad to know we're not talking about Judaizing teachers or Pharisees this morning. So, verses 1 through 3. Now on the first day of the week, very early in the morning, they, and certain other women with them, came to the tomb, bringing the spices which they had prepared, but they found the stone rolled away from the tomb. Then they went in and did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. Very early in the morning, what they? Y'all can cheat. Go down to verse 10. Look to see who the they were. Correct. The women. And so what are we talking about in the entire chapter of Luke 24? Correct. After the crucifixion, after the resurrection. They found the stone rolled away from the tomb, and then they went in and did not find the body of the Lord Jesus. As a lot of people are quick to bring out, if you go to the grave of everyone but Jesus, those people are in their graves. Jesus is the only one who is not in his grave because he has risen. Second set of verses 4 through 8. Will somebody read verses 4 through 8?
And it came to pass, as they were much perplexed thereabout, behold, two men stood by them in shining garments. And as they were afraid and bowed down their faces to the earth, they said unto them, Why seek ye the living among the dead? He is not here, but is risen. Remember how he spake unto you when he was yet in Galilee, saying, The Son of Man must be delivered into the hands of sinful men and be crucified, and the third day rise again. And they remembered his words.
Thank you. At verse number 4, as it happened, they were greatly perplexed. What does greatly perplexed mean? They were confused. They did not understand what was happening. They were perplexed with what they found. Who were these two men that were in shining garments?
Angels.
Then they were afraid and bowed their faces to the earth, and they said to them, What? Why do you seek the living among the dead? Something else we need to keep in mind. Weren't there supposed to be two soldiers at the tomb? Where were they? They were either asleep or gone. Now, why would they be asleep or gone? Because they were afraid. Exactly. And they remembered his words. What did we talk about last week? Jesus the Good Shepherd. I can't call the verse right now. It's too early in the morning.
Did he give his life for his sheep?
Correct. And the sheep shall hear the voice of their shepherd. So, and they remembered his words. So here in verses 6 and 7, the angels are recanting the words of Jesus to these women. So they remembered his words. If someone would read verses 9 through 11.
And returned from the sepulchre and told all these things unto the 11 and to all the rest. It was Mary Magdalene and Joanna and Mary the mother of James and other women that were with them, which told these things unto the apostles. And their words seemed to them as idle tales, and they believed them not.
They believed them not. Thank you. Verse number 9. They returned to the tomb and told all these things to the 11. I thought it was 12. Judas. Exactly. Judas is gone. So the 12 is now 11. And to all the rest. The rest being who? Everybody else around, correct? And verse number 10. we see the they that we were talking about up in verse number 1. It was Mary Magdalene, Joanna, Mary the mother of James, and the other women with them. How often do we see names of women in the Bible during these times? Not very often. Why is it important that their names are listed?
They give credibility to whatever is going on, and it names them specifically.
That's exactly it. The names of the women are important. It shows, not only did it show respect to these women, but it also gave credence to their words, credibility, exactly as that. Who told these things to the apostles. Verse number 11, and their words seemed to them like idle tales, and they did not believe them. When it says idle tales, what it literally means is crazy talk. And we don't mean crazy talk like, oh, they're just being silly. We mean like mentally crazy, like they had lost their minds. That's what they thought when they returned to the 11. Verse number 12, but Peter arose and ran to the tomb, and stooping down, he saw the linen cloths lying by themselves, and he departed, marveling to himself at what had happened. Peter was one of the 11 remaining now, correct? So, verse number 12, we're going to see that he ran, but just a little bit before he ran, he still didn't believe this. But once he sat and thought about it a little bit, he decided maybe he should go. But when it hit him, did he walk? Did he stroll? Peter arose and ran to the tomb. Saw the linen cloths lying by themselves, and he departed, marveling to himself at what had happened. What does it mean when you marvel at something? Wonderment, astonishment. He couldn't comprehend it. The road to Emmaus. If someone would read verses number 13 through 16.
And behold, 2 of them went that same day to a village called Emmaus, which is from Jerusalem about 80 furlongs. And they talked together of all these things which had happened. And it came to pass that while they communed together and reasoned, Jesus himself drew near and went with them. But their eyes were holden that they should not know him.
Verse 13 starts out and says, now behold. 2 of them are traveling the same way. When it says now behold, it's saying, watch this. Get ready, because something that you're not used to seeing is about to happen. So, now watch this. 2 of them were traveling that same day to a village called Emmaus, which was, what was the, read your version again, Miss Pat? Verse number 13, the distance between them.
7.5 miles.
Yeah, it's about 7.5 miles. What do we know about the number 7?
It's complete.
It's a number of completion, 7 days in the week, 70 times 7, 7, 7. Is that a coincidence? Probably not. Probably not that they were just so happened to be going to this town that was about 7 miles away from Jerusalem. 7 represents a number of perfection, a number of completion. Number 14, and they talked together of all these things which had happened. For how far? For how long? For 7 miles. But Heather and I did that was 5K? When was that? Huh? Couple of weeks. How far is that?
3.2 miles.
3.2 miles. So we didn't even walk half that distance. We were walking in a hurry, and it took us like 50 minutes. I think I still have a blister on one of my toes. Now, there's people that are used to walking places, but I mean, this is at least 2 hours. At least 2 hours of time that they had between Emmaus and Jerusalem. So it was when they conversed and reasoned that Jesus himself drew near and went with them. You can't miss that verse. Jesus himself drew near. But their eyes were restrained, so they did not know him. Did Jesus have miraculous powers before he was crucified and before he was resurrected? Yes. A lot of people that try to take this and say, well, they either weren't paying attention or what. There is no reason to believe that after he was resurrected that he didn't still have miraculous powers. So, it'd be the case if it were Jesus restraining them from being able to know who he was, or they just weren't looking. Obviously they weren't looking for Jesus to be among them right then. So is it possible that Jesus miraculously kept them from seeing him? Yes. The sixth set of verses 17 through 24, if someone would read them. 17 through 24, yes.
And he said unto them, What manner of communication are these that ye have one to another as ye walk and are sad? And the one of them whose name was Cleopas answered and said unto him, Art thou only a stranger in Jerusalem, and hast not known the things which are come to pass there in these days? And he said unto them, What thing? And they said unto him, Concerning Jesus of Nazareth, which was a prophet, might in deed and word before God and all the people, and how the chief priests and our rulers delivered him to condemn to death and have crucified him.
All the way down to 24.
Okay, 21 to 24.
Yes, sir.
But we trust that it had been he which should have redeemed Israel, and beside all this, today is the third day since these things were done. Yea, and certain women also of our company made our atonement, which were early at the sepulchre. And when they found not his body, they came, said that they had also seen a vision of an angel which said that he was alive.
Okay, thank you. What was the mood here? What was their mood here?
He thought it was strange. If he didn't know what was going on, he must not have been around.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe they were all a lot of everything. Confused, down, say what you use the words you want. But verse 17, and he said to them, What kind of conversation is this that you have with one another as you walk and are sad? That was Jesus. Jesus asked them a question. Did Jesus often ask questions of people? Yes. We're finishing up our study on Jesus, the Master Teacher. And Cleopas answered to him, are you the only person who hadn't been in Jerusalem? Where have you been? Is what he said. And then, so Jesus asked again another question in verse 19. These things that have, what he said up in verse 18, these things which had happened, Jesus asked, what things? Like we said, another question. When you want to know someone's opinion, if you just ask them for it, they'll give it to you. Jesus was asking their opinion and their beliefs. If you want someone's opinion, ask an open-ended question. That's an open-ended question, just 2 words. And they expounded on everything through there, all the way through verse 24. So, 7th set of verses 25 through 27. Then he said to them, O foolish ones, and slow of heart to believe in all that the prophets have spoken. Ought not the Christ to have suffered these things, and to enter into his glory? And beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he expounded to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. Verse number 27, beginning at Moses and all the prophets, he, that's Jesus, expounded to them in all the scriptures the things concerning himself. That's a huge statement in a very short sentence, a very short verse. All the scriptures and all the things concerning himself. Like we said, now we had like an hour and a half. We've talked about this already, how Jesus can say like something that short and open somebody's mind. They had 2 hours of this at least. Like we said, that's a huge statement, such a short sentence. That's kind of like Genesis 1:1, in the beginning God created the heavens and earth. Well, that's an awful short sentence. In the beginning God created the heavens and earth. But that means a lot more than that short sentence. Yes, ma'am.
He had like 333 prophecies that he covered, probably by person.
Mm-hmm.
That's all.
Yeah, and I didn't get all those out. I know what you're talking about. There's every one of them was fulfilled. We're going to get into that towards the end, where that is lined out. Starting in the verses that our Bible study picked up this morning, but like I said, I want to do the entire chapter. Will someone read the next 5 verses 28 through 32?
And they drew near to the village where they were going, and he indicated that he would have gone farther. But they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it is toward evening, and the day is far spent. And he went in to stay with them. Now it came to pass, as he sat at the table with them, that he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they knew him, and he vanished from their sight. And they said to one another, Did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us on the road, and while he opened the scriptures to us?
Was that miraculous?
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Verse number 28, then they drew near to the village where they were going, which was Emmaus, and he indicated that he would have gone further. Maybe Jesus wanted to see if they would go another mile with him. Maybe the teacher was seeing if the students were paying attention. I hate to kind of rush, but we kind of do. But verse 29, but they constrained him, saying, Abide with us, for it's towards evening, is far spent. While they didn't go the extra mile with him, they did what? They welcomed Jesus to come with them. They bade him to stay with them. And then, as we see in verse number 30, they bade him to stay and eat with them. In 31, then their eyes were opened. Remember what we said about the early miracles of Jesus. Their eyes were opened and they knew him, and he vanished from their sight. Poof. Now, 32, the funny verse. And then they said to one another, Did not our heart burn within us while he talked with us on the road and while he opened the scriptures to us? They realized what just happened. And everything going back, and it's been the fulfillment of everything that Jesus had been teaching. 9th set of verses. Would someone read verses number 33 through 35?
And they rose up the same hour and returned to Jerusalem, and found the 11 gathered together, and them that were with them, saying, The Lord is risen indeed, and hath appeared to Simon. And they told what things were done in the way, and how he was known of them in breaking of bread.
Thank you. So they rose up when? That very hour. Right then. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. They did this. Number 35. about the things that had happened on the road and how he was known to them in the breaking of the bread. That must have made an impression on him. Yes, to say the least. If someone would read verses 36 through 43.
And as they thus spake, Jesus himself stood in the midst of them and said unto them, Peace be unto you. But they were terrified and affrighted, and supposed that they had seen a spirit. And he said unto them, Why are you troubled? And why do thoughts arise in your heart? Behold my hands and my feet, that it is I myself. Handle me and see, for a spirit hath not flesh and bones, as you see me have. And when he had thus spoken, he showed them his hands and his feet. And while they yet believed not for joy and wondered, he said unto them, Have ye here any meat? And they gave him a piece of broiled fish and of a honeycomb, and he took it and did eat before them.
Thank you. Now, as we just read in 31, and their eyes were open and they knew him, and then he vanished from their sight, and back down in 36. Now, as they said these things, Jesus himself stood in the midst of them and said, Peace to you. Now, even if you've been there and taught and had been taught by Jesus and had seen all the things that you've seen, have you ever seen someone just reappear after being dead for 3 days? It's kind of easy in hindsight and everything that we know, saying, didn't they know this was going to happen? And that's the first place my head pops into. Are they surprised? Would you be surprised? I'd be a little bit more than surprised. So, Jesus stood in the midst of them, in the middle of them. It's not like he was on the outside and they looked around and said, hey, there's Jesus. He was snap right in the middle of them and said, Peace to you. Verse number 37, but they were terrified and frightened. I would have passed out. 38, and he said to them, Why are you troubled, and why do doubts arise in your heart? Jesus knows not only all of our actions, but he also knows what? He knows our hearts. Jesus knew their heart. 39 is where he shows that he is Jesus. Behold, my hands and my feet, that it is who? I myself. Handle me and see, for the spirit does not have flesh and bones. You see, I have. He showed his hands and his feet. And then, further down, 41 through 43, he asked, Do you have any food here? And they gave him a piece of fish and some honeycomb, and he took it and ate it in their presence. Notice all the sensory type things that Jesus was doing to set the apostles at ease, to let them know that it was him. They heard his words. They could look and see him. They could look and see the scars. They could touch him, touch the scars. He ate with them. Jesus let them know that it was him by by the senses. I had a thought on this. Are there not people that say and or believe that when Jesus returned that he was no longer flesh but he was spirit? How? Right there. Jesus said himself that, we'll get to that. He was not just spirit, but he was also flesh, because he was hungry. Spirit does not hunger for food.
They get that from Mary. That's not what he was telling her.
Correct. It's
He was
over.
just saying, I'm going to be around a while. You're going to be hanging on to me.
But people don't hear people when they speak sometimes. Would someone read the 11th set of verses? We're getting, last page. Would someone read verses 44 through actually 44 through 45.
Then he said to them, "These are the words which I spoke to you while I was still with you, that all things must be fulfilled which were written in the law of Moses and the prophets and the Psalms concerning me." And he opened their understanding that they might comprehend the scriptures.
Sister Pat brought up a little bit ago of all the things in all the scriptures in the Old Testament, all the old scriptures where that had been fulfilled by Jesus. Here it's listing them one at a time, although not every single one separately, but that all things must be fulfilled which were written in 3 places. The first one was what?
The law of Moses,
The second one is
prophets,
the prophets, and the third one.
Psalms.
And did Jesus come to destroy the old law? No. He came to fulfill it. 45, and he opened their understanding that they might comprehend the scriptures. Again, that's another short verse for a lot of teaching. Yeah. He opened their understanding. That's a huge statement. It's been a while since I've been in school, but it always seemed to be on math. History and English and arts and stuff, that was easy for me, but math I never got. But every once in a while something would just click, and it all just made sense. Jesus opened their understanding on the Word in that one verse. And something else I thought about, do we not see a huge shift in the apostles from here going forward? Do we not see a change in the way the apostles acted, spoke, behaved? Yes, we do.
Well, they thought he was dead, and now they know he was alive.
Yeah. Well, it's not just that. I'm talking about not only that, but in their understanding of things, in their understanding and their comprehension in the way that they're taught. But yeah, that'll change someone's perception on things.
They sort of realized everything he said put together.
Yeah. They saw the forest and the trees at the same time, correct?
Well, if you look at, they had his teaching and all, and he tried to teach them the meaning behind the scriptures. But if he opens their mind to fully understand it, then it's not, I can tell you these walls are not white, but until you see it, something, you know that they fully understood what was meant. Not just listening to somebody, they do it here.
Yeah. Put everything together, correct?
Don't you know their minds were racing of that, of everything he had said, just,
Oh yeah,
putting it all together.
very much so. What I was thinking is how almost from this point forward, they kind of change from, you understand what I'm saying? We're always going to be students of the Word of Christ, but they become, there's a shift in them from being just 12 or the students of Christ to becoming teachers of the Word. Like right after this verse.
Colin, they have been followers of him, like you were saying. Students, now they're ready to make that final decision. Is he real? Is he worth giving up my life for? It's like right now, that's when they make that decision.
Well, verse 21 still says they still don't understand what to do. They thought it was really miserable.
Yeah.
So that's why he didn't show himself to those students, because they didn't recognize him again. They just want to say, "Here's what we're going to do." More thinking on that along the line than listening to what he was saying about the scriptures, Moses and the prophets. So once he explained all that to them, then he showed himself to them, so they understood fully. Then they went back to the other one.
Yeah, you brought that up, and I thought about that in verse 21. But that was the words of, that was Cleopas talking. But
He was cruel, weak.
yeah, he did, and you don't have any verses saying any of the other ones saying, "Hey, that's not what we thought." And they went along with him, so they were agreeing. If you don't stand up and say no in disagreement, then you are
Well,
agreeing.
even the apostles, when they saw him, they were bewildered.
Yes.
So
Frightened.
They didn't understand what was, they still thought he was going to really be miserable. So they
46 through 49, then he said to them, "Thus it is written, and thus it was necessary for the Christ to suffer and to rise from the dead the third day, and that repentance and remission of sins should be preached in his name to all nations, beginning at Jerusalem. And you are witnesses of these things. Behold, I send the promise of my Father upon you. But tarry in the city of Jerusalem until you are endued with power from on high." If someone would read the last four verses number 50 through 53.
And he led them out as far as to Bethany. He lifted up his hands and blessed them. And it came to pass, while he blessed them, he was parted from them and carried up into heaven. And they worshipped him and returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and were continually in the temple praising and blessing God. Amen.
What else would they do after seeing that? Does anyone have anything before we go into just a few of the questions? Question number 1. Where were the individuals traveling to when Jesus joined them? Emmaus, 7 miles away from Jerusalem. What did they do when they came to their destination? Yes, because Jesus said, "I would go further," but they bade him to stay and eat. Number 3, when did the individuals recognize Jesus?
After they took the bread and blessed it and broke it.
Exactly, after they ate with him, after they bade him in, after they welcomed him. Number 4, what did they do after Jesus vanished from their presence? Did we not just see what we thought we saw? Yes. And went to tell everyone. Number 5, to whom had Jesus also appeared?
Joanna and Mary
And correct him.
and Peter.
Yep. Number 6, how did Jesus prove his physicality to the disciples?
And letting them touch him.
All of the above. Correct. They heard his voice. They could see him, could touch his hands. What 3 divisions of the Old Testament are mentioned in Luke 24:44?
The law, Moses, prophets, and Psalms.
And the Psalms.